Hey guys, Miss Naylor here. We're going to start on page 86 of your Roots book. You need your highlighter and your pen or pencil to underline and make notes. Meter, measure. Go ahead and highlight that root, underline the meaning. Although for years Americans have used the root meter in such words as thermometer, barometer, speedometer, odometer, we are dragging our feet in adopting the metric system. Only 2 other countries in the world don't use metric: Liberia and Myanmar, formerly called Burma. But now, with many states requiring metric instruction in the schools, perhaps we will eventually go along with the rest of the metric world. Our first was barometer. Go ahead and highlight that, and its 2 roots, bar meaning pressure and meter meaning measure. An instrument for measuring atmospheric pressure and hence for assisting in predicting probable weather changes. Underline that definition. Since the barometer reading is falling, I'm afraid we may have a storm. The next is geometry, from the roots geo meaning earth and meter meaning measure. Now there's a literal meaning here, earth measuring, and originally it was the system of measuring distances on earth through the use of angles, but now it's a much broader definition, and that's the one we're going to use. So highlight geometry, highlight the roots geo and meter, and underline a branch of mathematics that deals with points, lines, planes, and solids. I find geometry easier than algebra. That is a noun. Kilometer. From the roots kilo meaning thousand and meter meaning measure. Go ahead and highlight those. It is a noun, make a note. And it means 1,000 meters, approximately 0.62 miles. In Canada, the speed limits are posted in kilometers. Metric system. Go ahead and highlight that. Underline the meaning, a decimal system based on the meter as a unit length and the kilogram as a unit mass. The metric system is used almost worldwide. And we're actually going to listen to a quick Wanda Sykes joke about the meter system. It's kind of funny.
The only people use the metric system are doctors, right? And I feel sorry for the doctors because they have to give us our diagnosis in fruit. You go to the doctor and they say, you have a tumor. Oh, okay, how big is it, doc? Nine centimeters. And then you gotta look at the doctor and look at his face to try to figure out how bad it is. You're like, doctor gets sick of looking at your stupid face and he goes, you have a grapefruit. Oh.
So she's making a joke here about how we here in the United States, of course, don't use the metric system, but it is what's used in medicine, and so when doctors talk about size of incisions or tumors or all those things and they speak in meters, sometimes we just kind of look at them like, wait, what? So. Alright, our next word is metronome. It is a noun, so make a note. It comes from the roots meter meaning measure and nom meaning law. Go ahead and highlight those and underline the meaning. A clock-like instrument for measuring the exact time or law in music by a regularly repeated tick. Practicing the piano with a metronome helped her keep perfect time. Odometer, from the roots odd meaning road and meter meaning measure. Literally it means a road measure, but that's not how we actually use this word. We use it to mean an instrument for measuring the distance traveled by a vehicle. So make sure you've recorded that that is a noun. And our sentence, his policy was to trade in his car when the odometer registered 50,000 miles. So it's this piece right down here that tells us how far we've gone. Okay? Perimeter, from the roots para meaning beside and meter meaning measure. A fixed limit or boundary. This is a noun. Stay within the parameters of the present budget. Pedometer, from the roots ped meaning foot and meter meaning measure. Go ahead and highlight those and underline the meaning. An instrument that measures the distance walked by recording the number of steps taken. To make sure she walked 2 miles a day, she took a pedometer with her. Perimeter, From the roots peri meaning around and meter meaning measure, go ahead and highlight that and the meanings. The boundary around an area. So you should have the two roots highlighted, the word highlighted. Make a note that perimeter is a noun and underline that meaning. An old rail fence ran along the perimeter of his farm. And just so you will never ever forget what perimeter means.
Now that we learned how to measure in centimeters and meters, and we talked about inches and feet. That's right. Now we're gonna talk about perimeter. You have to measure each side, add them up, and we find perimeter, perimeter. That's perimeter, perimeter, perimeter. That's perimeter.
I kind of hope that song gets stuck in your head for a while because I think it's, it will never forget what perimeter is. Right, guys? All right, our next word is symmetrical. Guess what? We finally have an adjective. Not every word on this chapter is a noun, just almost all of them. So let's go ahead and highlight symmetrical, highlight the roots, sim meaning together and meter meaning measure. Literally, it means measured together, but we don't use it that way, so we're going to underline the other definition, having both sides exactly alike. He made a symmetrical flower arrangement for the center of the table. So you can see the pictures here. If we bisected this here, these two sides would be exactly alike. And over here, if I bisect here, these two sides would be exactly alike. They're symmetrical. Okay? Next slide. Tachometer, an instrument used to measure the speed of a revolving shaft in revolutions per minute. We see this in vehicles, and we're actually going to take a look at one. The one that turns red in this video is the tachometer. So you see how this is going up and then it turns red. That's the tachometer. So this is the speedometer. It tells us how fast the car's going. That's not what we're looking at. The tachometer tells us how fast the engine is working, like how quickly it's turning. All right, trigonometry. From the roots trig meaning three, gon meaning angle, and meter meaning measure, so measure three angles, right? The branch of mathematics that deals with the relations between the sides and angles of triangles and the calculations based on these. So here are my triangles. 1, 2, 3 sides, 3 corners, all that good stuff, right? Her knowledge of trigonometry was of value in her surveying job. Now, let's go through really quickly everything you should have highlighted and underlined. You have all your words. You should have all of them as nouns except for symmetrical, which is an adjective. Okay? You're responsible for all the words this week. The roots bar, meter, geo, kilo, nom, odd, para, ped, peri, sim, tach, tri, and gon have been added, in addition to meter. We also have the words thermometer, barometer, speedometer, and odometer up at the top of the page, so you're responsible for those as well. You might need to look them up. They might show up on your roots quiz, okay? You are now responsible for completing exercise 1 in the roots book. So numbers 1 through 10 on exercise 1 on page 87 you need to complete now. All right, best of luck on your roots quiz and be ready on Thursday. Bye.